warm welcome to Oulton Park for the third round of the GT Cup. Where we saw some real nail-biting racing moments and a fantastic class win from Nick Whale. Can he do it all again today? Let's find out. It's time for race one.
Thanks, Gemma. Porsches all the way at the front of the grid. Hogarth, Leonard, Morris, Whale, Stevenson and Broster all in Porsches. Anthony Wiles back in the series in his Ferrari 360 GT. Bob Lyons also in a Porsche, just rounds out that page of the grid, and Colin Simpson, a winner, Anglesey in the Marcos. Good to see Michael Corridon in the championship again, and Lee Atkins in that little BMW Z4 GT4 Coupe has been a giant Cooper. Barclay Dougal in the distinctive BMW, and as you go down you see Bertie Carruthers, David Bottrell also just ahead of him in a 944 Turbo. A rolling start here at Oulton Park. Some of the most spectacular and challenging scenery and racetrack anywhere in the UK. Who is going to get the best of the start as they charge down towards Old Hall Corner for the very first time? It is the red Porsche of Carl Leonard who turns in first. His brother Michael in the number 10 car charging down behind him. Colin Broster looking ahead at Nick Whale, a race winner, as we said, at Anglesey, down the inside into the left-hander at Cascades. A brave move, Rob Bath.
Brave move indeed, and Broster moving up past Nick Whale as he went down into Cascades on lap one, and he's held that position on the run down into Island Curve as well. So good opening lap from Broster to move up into third.
A superbly varied grid of cars. The Lotus coming up through the pack there, riding on board now with Leon Price, who's just been overtaken by the similar car of Arwin Williams just down the inside. And the rest of the pack charging through. Tommy Dreelan, the Irishman, and riding now with Anthony Wiles, as we said, back in the series. And who's that off to the right, Rob?
Oh no, that was Nick Whale. Nick spun at the first chicane, so that's dreadful. Look, riding on board now with Colin Broster as we come down into the second chicane, but still at the front of the field. That's Carl Leonard still leading.
Yeah, Leonard edging away a little bit, look like, as we see the very distinctive car of Colin Simpson or Marcus Mantis. Very quick, and you know, it seems to have been around for ages, those cars, but they're still fast. But nothing can really touch the latest generation of Porsches in this category just at the moment. It seems to be a great mixture of talented drivers and very quick machinery running at the front. And in the background, we've got a spinner, Rob.
Spinner Stephen Taylor, very distinctive all-silver Ferrari 360, one of the JMH cars. He spun coming over the hump on the exit of Druid, so a scary high-speed spin there.
You can see just how much these cars are moving around as they break into the very, very bumpy Old Hall corner and swooping down into Cascades. That's probably one of the more favoured corners with the drivers, Cascades, Rob.
Yes, lovely camber to it, really fast flowing corner that leads down the back straight into where we're looking now. This is the Island Curve that comes into the hairpin, so you've got one of the fastest left-handers into one of the tightest right-handers, and the full Oulton Park International Circuit. I can't tell you what a challenge that's like in one of these big, heavy 1,200 kilo GT cars. It really is like trying to fly a helicopter around your house as we ride on board with Leon Price.
Yeah, and ahead of them you see Price just watching the battle that's going on between very experienced Pete Morris, just putting a move there on Arwin Williams. We saw Williams make a position up earlier, now losing one there. And that's Michael Leonard in the 10 car, putting more and more pressure on Broster. And Broster very quick, we know how fast this guy's been. There's a lot of mixtures of experience running at the very front of this series. Guys like Nick Whale and Broster have been involved in motorsport, and Pete Morris for a long time. But that was an absolutely superb opportunist move there by Michael Leonard, Rob.
Great move from Leonard as they came up in towards Druids. Back on board with the battle of the Ferraris now with Leon Price. That's Arwin Williams ahead, and Williams has got sideways.
Oh, that's an incredibly dangerous place to spin there. Barclay Dougal in the GTR just going off in the background. I think Ian Hartley just missed the action as well, and that's Bertie Carruthers in the Porsche, the white Porsche on the grass there. Well, it's all kicking off at one of the places on the circuit you least want to have an incident, Rob.
And the only tiny little bit of damage was somebody lost their splitter. That could have been a huge incident, but they got away with it.
Yeah, Broster now putting more and more pressure on Michael Leonard. Definitely not getting away here. Broster clattering up through the gears. Sounded like he got a bit of a notchy gearbox through there, Rob.
Yes, he's just pulling the gear lever back towards him. These sequential changes are very, very quick, and that's a recovering Leon Price in the black car. He's looking to pass Dave Bottrell. Remember, Leon spun in that big incident we've just seen.
See, Dave Bottrell, not only has he got an 80s car, he's got an 80s crash helmet, one of those distinctive crash helmets from the Simpson helmets that people used to wear. It looks like the Stig driving it, and he's pretty late on the brakes, so he's pretty brave. Tommy Dreeland, though, the Irishman, out of the race, very smoky. And what's happened to Broster?
Oh, sounds something flapping on the front of Broster's car. Could be suspension or a floor failure of some description, but Pete Morris streaks by him as he comes up towards Druids.
Pretty exciting place to have something like that happen. I'm sure Broster was going to be thinking about how lucky he was there. Could have been a very expensive end to his race. Hogarth now under more and more pressure from Michael Leonard. He's having to go a little bit defensive as they come down into Lodge. Getting the power down, very, very difficult to keep the car tidy as you come out. The car's snaking around, even in a Porsche with the fantastic traction that a Porsche has. Still difficult, but Leonard having yet another look.
Michael Leonard doing a terrific job. It's his first outing in a Porsche. He's come up from 9th on the grid as well, so very, very hard charging drive. You can see the car with the headlights on. Great job.
Yeah, and in the foreground there, the great shot of the 5 car of Ian Hartley is coming through our picture. But let's focus on what's going on. And this scrap at the front, again, we see Leonard still putting more and more pressure on Hogarth. But this has allowed Carl Leonard to have a fairly untroubled run at this stage. Looking like, oh, contact! That was a really unexpected moment there for Michael Leonard, just clattering into the back of Hogarth. Now, what sort of damage could that have caused, Rob?
You just can't do that in a Porsche. The cooling radiators are out of the front. He's got to be careful he hasn't damaged one of those. And oh, that's Anthony Wilds having a spin. That's out of Cascades.
Well, it looked like he just got in a little bit hot. The back stepped out, and then by the time he'd managed to sort it out with the way that the road drops off, he was in big trouble now. Who's that skipping away from the car, Rob?
That's Stephen Taylor. Stephen Taylor had another spin, so he's spun earlier at Druids and now for the second time at Lodge.
Now back on board with Anthony Wilds, son, of course, of former Grand Prix driver, Le Mans driver, and all-round good guy, Mike Wilds. Great to see Anthony racing at this level. He really is a talented driver, a real chip off the old block, and it's good to see him back in this series after he made his debut earlier at Donington, and he was watching that scrap with Nick Whale unfold in front of him. At Hogarth now, let's wonder if that incident has caused any severe damage to the back of the 997. Certainly, and it's sort of taking stock of the situation. A yellow flag being waved there for the abandoned car of Taylor.
I can't see any damage to the front of Michael Leonard's car. I had a good look as it came through Lodge, and there's no coolant coming from the front. So, you know, I think he might have just got away with it, Si.
Yeah, but still, as you say, a bit of an unusual place to leave it. The very distinctive Renault Megane safety car leads the pack through. Leonard, Carl, that is, has got it all to do. Bottrell there in the middle, of course, not really factoring into the overall fight for the lead. But it does put extra pressure on the drivers. Of course, we've already had a rolling start, so they know how to get the cars away. But this time, single file, pressure on, racing for position towards the end of the race. Who's going to come out best, Rob?
Well, as long as there's no damage to it, car 10, Michael Leonard.
Yeah, Leonard has been absolutely flying from 9th on the grid. Both of the Leonard brothers, Carl and Michael, have really impressed this weekend. Clearly loving Oulton Park, certainly a circuit that it really does reward commitment. And both these guys have shown that. Leonard, Carl, that is the guy that's leading at the moment, has just driven away. Pete Morris charging through there, and a recovering even Nick Whale. And Mark Stevenson in the red and white fronted car. Now we're again on board with Anthony Wilds. Very distinctive. You can hear the Porsche and the Ferrari sound so clearly. And who's that moving slowly? That looks like Hogarth.
Hogarth with only half a rear bumper and no rear light, so perhaps another little bit of contact there between Leonard and Hogarth, but now we've got the two Leonard brothers nose to tail almost.
Yeah, and it does look like it is going to be a Leonard 1-2. Carl Leonard wins it from Michael Leonard. What an absolutely superb drive from these guys. Really have shown us they have got something special to offer to the GT Cup. So it is Carl from Michael Leonard, Pete Morris, Colin Simpson, Nick Whale, Mark Stevenson, great drive from Anthony Wilds, George Brewster, Bob Lyons and Duncan Cameron rounds out the top 10. In Class 1 it was Carl from Michael Leonard and then Colin Simpson in the Marcos coming third. Class 2, Pete Morris, Anthony Wilds and Duncan Cameron. And in Class 3, Lee Atkins, yet again David Bottrell and Robert Koenig in third.
Lee, we meet again. Consistency proving for you out there, definitely.
Yeah, it's been really good. I kind of need to offer a challenge to get some more cars out, but I think we've got the Aston Martins at Snetterton the next round, so they're going to be a big challenge.
And did you enjoy your race here today?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I had a really good race with a couple of Class 2s, avoided quite a large incident on the first couple of laps, and yeah, it was enjoyable.
You seemed to take a bit of a slow start, but what happened after that?
Well, I got bogged down at the start. The car in front had a bad start. I think it was Hogarth, and I got swamped into the corner. Colin Broster came back past as usual, and he's a good start. So Colin was keeping me honest for about 5 laps, and he's taken a lot of curb, and he lost probably shacked my arm into the curb, and I went past him because he had no steering. Trying to catch a 997 lads, it's hard work, but I enjoy it.
Carl, it's your first time in the Porsche, and you drove a blinding race. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I had a great race. You know, I got into lead in the first corner, pulled away, and kind of just kept an eye in the mirrors and just kind of cruised away. I'm delighted, first time in the Porsche. It's great.
And things sort of put the pressure on after the safety car came out for you, didn't they?
Yeah, I was waiting for the checker flag to come out when the safety car was out, but it didn't. So we had 2 laps to finish it off, and I got a good restart, got a gap, and I looked in the mirror and see my brother pass for second. So I was delighted.
Nick, post Anglesey, we had high hopes for you in that race today. What went wrong?
Yeah, I had high hopes myself. Driver error, really, to be honest. Brand new tyres, got a little bit enthusiastic on lap 1. We got up to 3rd place, thought we could brake and follow the leaders through, and of course I'd forgotten we got loads of lead in the car, so we couldn't brake where they braked, and we spun off. So it was simple driver error, and unfortunately we had a gearbox problem as well, which just to add to matters, and seemingly that's now terminal, so we won't be in race 2.
Well, a disappointing day for Nick Whale, but smiles all round for the Leonard brothers with a 1 and 2. And that, of course, determines their grid positions for the next race, which is coming right up. So, Colin, a little bit of contact there just prior to the race. Is it repairable? Will you be out for the second race?
Hopefully, yeah. We've got the best lads in the paddock on it, so I don't see why not. We've got the parts and we've got the know-how to rebuild it. Bottom arm is broke on the steering, which not very good going up Clay Hill. So hopefully we'll be out anyway.
It's now time for race 2, and with the fiercely competitive Leonard brothers taking first and second on the grid, there's everything to play for.
Well, that's about as much rivalry as you could expect. Leonard versus Leonard on the front row. Morris, Simpson, Stevenson, Anthony Wiles in his Ferrari, George Brewster, Paul Mace, Bob Lyons, and then Duncan Cameron round out the top 10. Steve Taylor, Tommy Carrera, Ian Harley, Price, Hogarth, Arwin Williams, Lee Atkins in his little BMW Z4, Carruthers, Dougal, and then Michael Corridon back at racing again in his Porsche. Mark Haynes, David Bottrell, John Taylor, Koenig, Nathan Dreelan, Stephen Taylor, and then Colin Brosser after that technical problem. Let's hope that the car's up and running and working well for this race.
28 cars on the grid, Simon. Massive field. Look at them streaming down towards the rolling start. Great sight.
Yeah, and you can see the Leonard brothers actually signalling to each other, almost saying, let's just hold these guys back, let's just time this properly, and then between them they can perhaps get the best of the getaway, but it's not going to be simple. They're going to have to work very, very hard to keep the charging pack behind them, and exactly that is what's happening. They're having to work hard from the outside, but Michael Leonard sweeps around the outside. Anthony Wiles in the 8 Ferrari is under pressure from Mark Stevenson behind them. You can see the rest of the pack squeezing and falling over each other. Stevenson moving across to try and take his racing line. They break down the inside. Stevenson has a look at Wiles, taps the back, and the light front end of the Porsche rotates and puts him off the road immediately. A pretty spectacular start to the race, Rob.
And I don't think he got collected. So often when you spin at Cascades on the first lap, you can be collected. Oh, did I speak too soon? No, that's Colin Broster recovering. So they have got that car fixed for race 2. The ABG boys have done very well to do that.
Great job by the team, great job by Broster already on the first lap. That's Anthony Wiles, seemed to come through that one unscathed. We see little Lotus charging through, and Broster now up behind Bertie Carruthers. Carruthers almost didn't see him coming that time. Look how quick he is, look how late he is on the brakes, but Carruthers comes back round the outside. He's not giving that one up.
He didn't give up easily at all. Ian Hartley ahead in his distinctive white Ferrari 430.
It's going to be interesting at the front to see how this pans out. Michael Leonard has now just got a tiny bit of a lead over Colin Simpson. We know just how quick that Marcos can be, and Colin is incredibly confident with sliding that powerful car around. The pack unfolds. It's a fantastic sight seeing such a brilliant mixture of cars, Rob.
It is. Talking about a mixture, we see a Ferrari against a Lotus. Steve Taylor in his little Exige. Not only is that Lotus nimble through the corners, it's rocket ship quick in a straight line as well.
Yeah, and certainly we know just how fast the Lotus can be round here. Think back to Jim Clark and all the days gone by of the Oulton Park Gold Cup. This is a circuit that lends itself to proper drivers, and Michael Leonard seems to be exactly that. He's really attacking the corners, the back of the car steps out. With a Porsche, you really have got to get hold of the car, grab it by the scruff of the neck and really attack, and that's what seems to be happening with Leonard.
Yes, very much. I raced a Porsche last year in the Le Mans series, and you really do have to drive it like a go-kart. You throw the car into the corner and then utilise the weight distribution to really maximise the traction out of the corner. And, ooh, contact there ahead of Colin Broster.
Well, it's almost a repeat of what happened before here at Oulton Park. You saw there Arwen Williams going round, and behind him Barclay Dougal somehow managing to miss him. That white and red car of Williams just about, we think, getting away. Well, previously we saw a safety car caused by from the Ferrari of Taylor stopping there, but not seem to be a problem at the moment. Hopefully they've all got going, but Carl Leonard still pushing hard. Seems to have just lost a little bit of ground that time to Simpson as Mark Stevenson now pushing hard the 73 car. In fact, raced in the Porsche Carrera Cup that supports the British touring cars here at Oulton Park last season, so clearly likes the circuit here.
He does, and he's just gently picking his way back up to the pack. Remember, he spun at Cascades on the opening lap, so just being careful with his recovery moves.
Yeah, taking his time, working his way through, and I'm sure that was a pretty interesting moment for Mark. He certainly would have focused his attention. You can see that Carl Leonard quicker that time out of the last part of Druids, but as soon as Simpson got the power down, the Marcos just stretched its legs, and although it's a relatively short straight from Druids down to Lodge, it's just enough to edge away, Rob.
Yes, and that particularly will suit the Marcos. The Marcos probably slightly more nimble around here than the Porsche, but Carl Leonard looks down the inside. Oh, he lunged him from a mile back. Fantastic move there from Carl Leonard.
Never an easy place to overtake at Oulton Park, but coming through the pack there, Price seems to be just managing the car quite well. We see on board from Price just how quickly Broster goes away. That's the level of experience that Colin Broster's got. Plus, not an unhealthy dose of fired-up aggression, I would imagine, after that drama in race one.
Yes, I think he was very lucky to survive that drama in race one. Remember, it was a steering failure, the last thing you want around Oulton Park, so he's pushing very hard.
Yeah, now Pete Morris under increasing pressure as the cars charge down into the chicane. Interesting to see how much curb they take, just tending to miss the first curb a little bit as they come through there, but didn't seem to be affecting the pace of the cars as they charged out of there too much.
No, you've got to be quite careful around here. It was actually too much curb, which caused Colin Broster to have that incident in race one. So the cars, obviously, you have to use some curb, but you can't use too much.
Quite sharp and angled curbs you've got at Oulton Park, a real wonderful flowing circuit. Hard to believe that when the guys were racing, sort of alluded back to the era of Jim Clark and Jackie Stewart and the greats that raced here back in the 60s, that no curbs, no arcos, just plenty of trees to find if you got it wrong.
I was just going to say plenty of trees to welcome you, particularly on this next section where you used to come up Clay Hill and round the left at Water Tower.
Duncan Cameron in the traditional all-red Ferrari, working the car hard. Stephen Taylor in the silver Ferrari now putting more and more pressure on trying to work his way back through. Car a little bit loaded up on the exit there, didn't quite use all of the curbing that he might have done, but understandable perhaps, as we see now another guy recovering, and that's Paul Hogarth putting a move down the inside, and Anthony Wiles didn't really have much in terms of being able to defend it. Anthony just looked like the Porsche was just a bit quicker there.
Good move from Hogarth. Cleanly throw on the brakes, and to be fair to Anthony Wiles, I did hear him take a down change in the car as he came out of the corner, so perhaps the paddle change system, which can be a little temperamental in the earlier Ferraris, didn't select the right gear for him as he came out of the bend. Oh, and riding on board with Leon Price now. This is Island Bend. Oh, big spin and fairly hefty contact with the barriers there, Simon.
Yeah, looks like that left rear is sitting down on the ground, so clearly some major damage. Now, Paul Mace is now putting pressure on Simpson. Simpson's dropped away from the scrap that he was having earlier, and in the background, they look like Paul Hogarth coming through to join in the fun. Hogarth already down the inside of Mace, comes from a long way back. That was an incredibly brave move. I think he's got the run. He may well have momentum. Can he do it again, Rob?
Yes, great move there from Hogarth at Lodge. Cleanly through on the inside. There's lots of grip down the inside there. You can brake very late and very deep if you are tight to the right-hand side.
Back at the very front of the pack, it is the two Leonard brothers. Michael leading Carl now. They both look very comfortable, lapping consistently quickly. Just really have got into a great rhythm around the fantastic Oulton Park circuit. Certainly suits their driving style, and they're clearly enjoying competing in this series and loving the circuit here.
So, do you think there's any team orders?
Doesn't look like it at the moment, does it? Rosser certainly is a man who wants to get amongst it all. Back in the scrap nearer the front. He's now starting to put pressure on Mark Stevenson. And Stevenson is going to be having his mirrors full of that distinctive yellow car, and that's Simpson in the gravel. Now, he was under pressure from Hogarth. I wonder if the pressure paid off from Hogarth's perspective and he made a mistake, or maybe there could have possibly been a bit of contact.
Possibly a bit of contact. We see both Leonard brothers there moving up past the back marker Russ Nathan. So the two leaders now, the two brothers, absolutely nose to tail as they come up onto the back straight.
Well, you said, are there any team orders? I think probably anything but. If anybody wants to beat someone, it's surely got to be a family member, brother, father, whatever it might be. He's certainly seen this in other forms of motorsport, the fiercest of all fierce rivalries. And interestingly, slightly different techniques going through the last part of the chicane, Rob.
Yes, different lines there, just trying to maximise their exit momentum.
And as they come towards the end of the race now, it is going to be very much last of the late breakers from Carl Leonard. Is he going to be willing to take a risk? Already Michael Leonard knows that that's what he's got in mind. He starts to go defensive, and the two of them are going to fight it all the way through. This man has driven brilliantly low. Hogarth has come through after starting only 15th on the grid after the problems that he had in race one. But as they charge through, look in the background, it is Carl Leonard who has dropped the car. He's put the car backwards off at the island, at the shell hairpin, and I wonder if he can get the car restarted from there. It's going to be a difficult job, Rob.
It certainly is. You're right, somebody was pushing very, very hard. We're on to our last lap, though, now for this man, Michael Leonard. His brother has restarted. Yep, Carl has restarted, but he's fallen back down the pack.
Michael Leonard has been supreme. He withstood the pressure. He just got his head down and drove away. Great move at the start. And Michael Leonard makes it a Leonard family double this weekend at Oulton Park. One for Carl, one for Michael. What a superb drive by the Irishman. As now recovering from Hogarth ended up with disaster. He's been so brave on the brakes all day, and his bravery just called him out there.
Yeah, Carl had the corner covered, and Hogarth spun into the gravel at the last corner.
But it was Michael Leonard by 20 seconds, not representative of how close the race really was, from Mace Morris, Stephen Taylor, Wilds, Broster, Brewster, Cameron and Mark Stevenson rounding out the top 10. In the classes, it was Michael Leonard from Carl Leonard this time, then George Brewster in third position. Class 2, Paul Mace from Pete Morris, from Steve Taylor in his Lotus Exige. In Class 3, once again, Lee Atkins, David Bottrell and Robert Koenig.
So, Lee, an exhausting day for you, but another fantastic result.
Yeah, it's been a really, really good day. I had a little bit of an episode at the end of that race, and I had a bit of a spin, but still managed to take the win, so I'm happy.
Paul, third overall, first in class, a blinding race, but it wasn't all easy, was it?
No, the third corner there was a bit of an incident. Stevenson made a mistake, spun, and I thought there was going to be carnage. From then on inwards, just trying to keep up and get past the people in my class, and I was fortunate enough, quick enough to pass most people, except the 997, so I had a good race.
Michael, the competition was promised between yourself and your brother, and you certainly delivered there.
Oh God, yeah. You know, coming from 9th to second or third in the first race, you know, was very, very good. You know, if I had another 2 laps, I might have kind of challenged my brother in that one. But this race, I just put my head down and was gone, and then I kind of backed off it during. Then I see my brother back in the mirrors, and he came back at me, so I had to go back onto the bend. And yeah, this right result in the end. We got a win.
It's been a day dominated by Ireland's Leonard brothers, with each of them taking a win. Well, no doubt there'll be celebrations in their camp tonight, but from us, that's it. Join us next time from Snetterton.